Hey, this is Mad Matt from Budget Boosting. Today we're going to talk about this 2015 Ford Mustang Turbo, or what Ford calls EcoBoost. Now, these are little sleepers here. And what you see here, let's look at the engine. It's a 2.3 turbocharged, intercooled, inline 4. Now, what cracks me up is from the factory they try to hide your engine. Because if you look under here, they try to intimidate you with these covers. They look so complicated, it's like you don't want to touch it. Oh no! It looks all, look at all these fancy covers, you can't even see your engine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can look at your engine and find out what's what. Like for example, someone wants to change their spark plugs, they're going to go, oh man, I don't even see them. I don't even see my spark plugs. Well, that's how they try to discourage you from looking at your engine. But I'm going to show you, you pull a few bolts, which I have, in one hand, the cover comes right off. See? Little cover here. And see this insulation in here? It's designed to keep heat into the engine, which to me, and a lot of other people that know better, is a no-no for electronics, because the more heat you keep on your electronics, like your coils, your injectors, stuff on your engine that you can see right there, the more heat that's kept on those things, it refrains from the cooling. It doesn't allow these electronic components to cool. Same thing with this. This insulation here keeps the heat on the engine. Now, at least without this cover, some air can go in and go out, and without this, the cooling air can run and cool some of your electronic components off. Well, this kind of allows you to see an engine, so now you can see what you're working with. This tells you a lot of heat is being held in the engine compartment, which is okay for a few years when warranty's happening. But after warranty expires, all that heat's going to take its toll on all those sensors and electronics. So what's going to happen, they're going to get all hot. And after electronics get hot and cold for so many times, they fail prematurely. So I'm going to set this over here for now. Now, while we're looking at this car, I'll show you this 2015 Mustang Turbo. I call it the Mustang Turbo. Ford likes to call it the EcoBoost, but pretty much what an EcoBoost is, it's a turbocharged engine, according to Ford. And Eco, I guess they're figuring, saves you on gas. Well, these things are known to get mid-30s in the fuel economy, and I believe they can get a lot more, and a lot more than the factory performance, which is well over 300 horse and well over 360 foot-pounds of torque out of a little four-cylinder. Very impressive. But you can thank the turbocharger for that. It's got a front-mount intercooler from the factory. The way you can tell is the turbo boost goes here, goes to the front, goes into this front-mount intercooler, comes back from the front mount intercooler and into your intake. So no need to install a front mount intercooler on this Mustang because it came from the factory. So we'll take a walk and we'll look at some things. Comes factory with some nice 18-inch wheels. One heck of a good looking Mustang. You look inside, nice leather seats. I like the little humorous touch. If you look at the speedometer, it says ground speed. It doesn't say speedometer, it says ground speed. So basically it's telling you this thing flies low. It's so fast it flies low. So ground speed, because if it didn't have ground speed it might fly. Pretty nice little Mustang. From the factory I'm pretty impressed with it. Now performance wise, it's awesome. It's great. From low to almost 3/4 of throttle, this thing pulls really hard. But if you shove it to full open, wide open throttle, it starts to hesitate. It doesn't pull very hard at wide open throttle, but low to almost 3/4 of the throttle, this thing pulls very hard. I've seen speeds quickly excel past 120. Well, once you go to wide open throttle, or if you go wide open throttle right off the bat, it feels hesitant. Because I believe the reason why is it's not getting much air from the factory, which I've said before in other cars. Well, let's take a look. I'm a believer in doing an intake mod if it needs it. So let's look at this air cleaner and determine if it needs it or not. here's our air filter on this Mustang. I've already taken off some of the things so we can look at it. Here's the air box. Like I've explained on other videos, this is the clean side. This is the clean side. See how clean the air filter is? Below this air filter is where the air comes from the outside of the car, goes onto the dirty side of the air filter, gets filtered, and goes into the clean side and feeds your turbocharger with intake air. Well, let's take a look at this intake here. Doesn't look like the most free-flowing intake in the world. It's paper filter. This could have been extra intake air, but they decided not to. We'll set that there. And we'll look where it's getting its air from. This is the hole of the air supply, which doesn't look really small. It actually looks pretty good, and it looks like it's getting its air from the front of the car, but it gets smaller as you go forward. See this little hole here? It gets smaller. It starts out big, but then it turns out small. So it makes you wonder, it is kind of breathing from a straw when you get closer to the inlet assembly, because it starts big and goes small, which means it's kind of struggling to get intake air. So if I was to do an intake mod on this car, which I won't for a while, but eventually I will, I'll try to stick with this size all the way forward and try to largen this inlet tract so it's getting fresh air from the grill, but larger. This is good, but it gets smaller as you go forward. So my goal will be to make it breathe from more areas. I may even make it breathe from the bottom as well, so it's getting bottom air as well. So that'll come later. I'm just thinking about how I'm going to do this intake mod, but for now I'm just showing you the basics. Air comes from here, goes through the filter, well, goes through the dirty side of the filter, filters the air, goes back into here, feeds your turbo air. So this is how this box is designed. Let's see if we can take this box out and inspect it. Okay, the intake taken apart. This part's not so bad. It's pretty good flow. Here's your tube that goes to the turbocharger. And here's your box. Okay, here's the size of the box. This is where your air comes from. It gets rammed in from the grill, then gets a little larger, goes to the air filter. Actually, this is not too bad, but ways I could improve it. See how it goes to this small end? And then if you look in here, there's where the air's coming from. You look all the way in there, there's where your air's coming from. It could be a little larger, but honestly, from the factory, this is not bad. I will leave this alone for a while and just put a freer flow air filter in there, probably a K&N or a Spectre, because paper's kind of hard to breathe through. So I'm going to end up changing this air filter to a freer flow cotton air filter. But as far as the intake duct goes, I'm pretty impressed. This is a pretty good factory ram air. It's better than most I've seen. Put back on again. Okay. Trying to find my little, there it is. This is how you take off and install the factory air box on these Mustangs. Mustang turbos. Only one bolt, which I say is probably the easiest intake I've ever put in. Look at that, one bolt. Nice and easy. And you tighten it down. So I'll be doing this again, except with the K&N air filter, because I'm not very fond of the factory paper filters. They don't breathe very well, but they're good for, you know, they're good for really particulate dirt, but the problem is it just takes too much restriction. And the cotton filters from K&N and Spectre are just as good. They just got too much oil on them right out of the box, so you clean them to get rid of a little bit of the oil, and they'll perform so much better and not gum up your MAF sensors, which a lot of people know. And dirty side always goes down, because this is your clean intake air. So you put the dirty side down. Because remember, the air comes out, goes through the air cleaner, gets filtered, and comes in here and goes to your turbo. So, put this back on first. Okay. Then, put your air filter on. Oh, there you go. 1, 2 clips. And there your air filter is put in. Then you reattach your mass airflow sensor, or your MAF. You look at the little shape where it goes. Put it right there. It's plugged in. Yep. Not too bad. Then you tighten down your air intake tube. And that's how you inspect the air filter on a 2015 Mustang Turbo or EcoBoost, which they call them. And you can see, looking at the factory air box, as far as ram air goes, it's pretty good. But it could be better with a better free-flowing air cleaner. So that'd be the only improvement I can think on it. Or if there's a way to increase the size of this eventually. But for now, it's pretty good. Now that the inspection cover's off the engine, you can actually see the engine. You can see the throttle body, the intake manifold. You got like a inlet pressure right there. Tells the, they call it manifold absolute pressure. Got your individual coils, so if you were to change your spark plugs, you just remove the coil power wire and you pull the coil out. After loosening these nuts, or these bolts, you pull the coil out and underneath is a spark plug. So they're not as intimidating as they appear with the cover on. So you can actually see your engine now. Now, some other things. Yeah, there's your coils. Your fuel injectors will be, it's got direct fuel injection, or yeah, the direct fuel injection. So the fuel rail, I'm still kind of looking for that. But the direct injection system, it's not a really easy fuel system to see. But if I can trace where the fuel lines are, I could find the direct injection injectors. But there's your coils. I'd be willing to bet the direct injection system is where you cannot see it, because it goes right into the cylinders, or right before the intake valves. Now you can see the turbocharger right here. There's the exhaust section of the turbocharger. There's the intake section of the turbocharger here. So the turbo sucks the air from the air cleaner, compresses it, throws it to the intercooler, comes back to the intercooler, through it, and into your throttle body, into your engine. This is your exhaust section of your turbocharger. This is where the exhaust manifold blows all that hot exhaust air to spool the turbo, and whatever's not used for the turbo, when it's done, goes through this downpipe through the exhaust system. This is your internal wastegate right here. When the boost pressure reaches a certain amount, it pushes this diaphragm and spring in and deflects the exhaust not used to spin the turbo and directs it to the exhaust downpipe. So it spins the exhaust just enough to drive the turbo to its boost, then the extra exhaust just goes right out the downpipe, so you don't get too much boost. Too much boost can blow head gaskets if other things are not prepared. So it's good to have a wastegate that protects your turbocharger, and this is an internal wastegate. So once you take these covers off, you can really start seeing your engine components. Water pump would be here, alternator down here, there's your water pump, idler pulley, harmonic balancer or crank pulley, and air conditioning is down there. So, and this car has electric power steering, so you're not going to find a power steering pump on this, because it's electric power steering. You got sport mode, normal mode, and track mode. All kinds of cool stuff in this car. There's your radiator overflow tank. So your radiator line goes in, goes out, and this keeps your radiator replenished at the right amount at all times. You just make sure it's between minimum and maximum, you're good. Yep, windshield wiper fluid, fuse box. And this engine has dual overhead camshafts, you can tell, because there's one cam here, one cam there, dual overhead cams. 4 valves per cylinder. Oil dipstick. And it looks good. Well serviced. There's your oil cap to go in. Put her back in. Yep, we can do it like that a little better. There we go. There's your brake master cylinder. Anti-lock brake system right here. Yep, all kinds of neat stuff in this engine. And this is your boost controller from the factory. This is your electric boost controller from the factory right here. You see it goes into vacuum and boost. It senses vacuum and boost and controls your turbo. And it also sends pressurized air to the wastegate to open it when boost reaches that certain amount. So that's your factory boost controller. All kinds of neat stuff. And this appears to be, this appears to be an EGR, exhaust gas recirculation, or EGR. Yep, all kinds of neat stuff here. Anyhow, hope you learned something about the 2015 Mustang EcoBoost, or Mustang Turbo like I like to call it. And if you like us on Facebook, like us on our YouTube page, and go see budgetboosting.com. Then again, get our budget boosting window stickers. They're great. They can help any car have that performance edge. And remember, knowledge is power. It's horsepower. You can go right to fourwheelparts.com and order these. 4Wheel Parts does great stuff with trucks, same with the winch. And you can get one of these bumpers on your truck. They make them for all kinds of trucks, all the late model, all kinds of models of the truck. So Fab Fours makes a good quality, strong bumper where you protect your front end of your investment.